My name is Maeve. I'm a senior. I'm from Carlisle, Massachusetts, and I'm a sociology and Russian major, German minor. I was interested in how social science research works. I hadn't really done a lot besides classwork, so I found out about the study and I wanted to get involved. So I mostly worked on analyzing interviews and writing some stories. So the analyzing the interviews was going through them, reading them, and then picking out, important quotes, things that stood out as interesting data points. And then for the stories, I thought that was a really interesting part of the process because I didn't know how those qualitative stories are done in qualitative research books. And it's kind of like a combination of many different stories and, to create anonymity, but also to show that it's not just a one school thing. We see the same trends across these similar spaces. So the stories were really interesting, just going through finding very similar themes and ideas in all of the interviews that I was reading, and then creating stories out of that was really interesting. I was really surprised by, we interviewed a few queer students, and I was really surprised by the fact that didn't actually play a large part in their experience as an all-boys school student. As a queer person, I was expecting that to be something that would make them an outcast in the community, but it didn't seem to be that way. And a lot of them said that it actually was totally fine and that they were supported by their classmates as long as they were performing a certain kind of masculinity. So I thought that was really interesting. I think something that I noticed that I wasn't expecting was the fact that a lot of the all-boys school students had never been in a classroom with women, and so when they got to college, and that was part of the interview questions, how do you feel college is different, or were you well prepared? I was really surprised that a lot of the students remarked that they had never seen women in a classroom, and that kind of gave me a lot of context for why that transition can be so hard, and why inequality and conceptions about women can be bred so easily in these all-male spaces is because they just don't have exposure to women as often as co-ed school students. And so I think that gave me a lot of context for why sexism is so prevalent in these spaces, and it's not necessarily malicious, but it's just a product of the structure of the school. I think I learned through this process my own privilege in my education system, because it wasn't, besides the fact that it wasn't a single-sex education, a lot of the stuff that made the all-boys schools so elite was similar to my educational experience in public school. And so that was something that I had to reckon with throughout the process, is that these schools actually aren't, except for the single-sex thing, all that different from other wealthy places.